welcome everyone. My name is Sarah Spinaltendag, and I am the Senior Communications and Marketing Manager here at Kids & Company. Thank you all for joining us for today's webinar. We would like to welcome Laurie Lathem, Community Outreach Manager at our partner company, Bayshore Home Health. Bayshore is one of the largest home health providers in Canada with over 50 years of experience in providing home and community nursing, home support therapy, and pharmacy services. Today, Laurie will be sharing insight on the options for senior care that are available in Canada. She will talk through the pros and cons of each and help you decide what makes the most sense for you and your family. Having worked in retirement homes and home health care, Laurie is an expert in senior care, and we are so thrilled to have her speak today. If you have any questions throughout the session, please use the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen, and we will ensure that they will be addressed at the end of the session. So over to you, Laurie.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome. I'm glad you can join us. I'm just going to share my screen. So just one moment. Sarah, we need you to let go of control. There we go. Let's see if I can share my screen now. Okay. I hope everybody can see this. Again, welcome. As mentioned, thank you for the kind welcoming. I'm just here to give you some options about what senior options are available to people in Canada. So I know you must be wondering, what is available out there for my loved ones, whether that's a senior or not. Wondering if you have a good understanding of what is out there at this point, or if you've had trouble finding resources in your community to support the needs of a loved one. So, keep in mind that we don't often stop to ask people for directions to how to get to a place we've never been before. So ask questions about how you're going to get help navigating the system. Should be no different. So let's start and see if there's any questions as we go along. So deciding what the best choice for you can be a little daunting. So you don't really know what you don't know until the day you need it. It's not something that we think about. But generally speaking, the options that are available for seniors are government-funded long-term care homes. There's the government-funded in-care services. There are private pay retirement homes, and there's private pay in-home care as well. So let's have a look at each of them to see which one might be the best fit for you. The government-funded long-term care homes, they do cover quite a significant number of healthcare costs. They will pay for your personal and nursing care in a long-term care home, but you do have to qualify for that. So in order to qualify for the long-term care, you're going to have to require 24-hour care. You're going to need assistance with the activities of daily living, which are things like grooming and bathing. Maybe it's mobility support, but it's usually has to be 3 or 4 things that a person would require on an ongoing basis. You do require on-site supervision or monitoring to ensure the safety or well-being. So this is something that's going to be not once or twice a day, but ongoing throughout the day. And these are needs that can't be met in any other way, either through home care or a retirement type of environment. So the thing to keep in mind, though, is with the long-term care, there's generally a 1 to 5 year wait for a placement. So some of the homes that are more popular, those are the ones that have a great reputation and are in great areas. Those are the ones you typically will carry a 5-year placement. But perhaps if you're in a more rural area and it may be an older building, there may be a shorter wait list. So it's just something to think about when you're looking at the long-term care options. I'm just going to move this out of the way. There we go. So again, the pros and cons for the government funded. They are partially or fully funded by the government. So they do an assessment, both of your personal needs, care needs, but they also look at your finances as well. So they'll look at not your whole asset portfolio, but they will look at a monthly income. So typically the cost for the government funded could be anywhere from around, generally speaking, $2,500 to $3,000 a month. So if you have income that is up to that amount, they will take your $3,000 a month, and then you are left with whatever is additional. But say, for example, you don't bring in an income. So if it was somebody who was on just a pension or a CPP, for example, and that person's only bringing home $1,200 a month, then they would take all of that $1,200, and I believe it's about $50 that they leave you per month to pay for whatever else, so gifts for families. But basically everything's covered, so you wouldn't need a lot anyway. The pro for long-term care is it's available to anybody that meets their criteria, and everything's provided. They can handle a high level of care needs, not at all locations. So for example, if there was somebody that had dementia with behaviors associated, they would have to go to specific long-term care facilities. So you'd have to wait for that as well. And the other pro, of course, is they have the medical staff 24/7. The cons, though, on the side of the long-term care home is the lengthy wait times. As I mentioned, it could be anywhere from 1 to 5 years. There are exceptions to that. There is something that's called a crisis placement, and that would be in the case of somebody who's had an event which requires them to skip or go to the top of the line. So sometimes this is the exception to the rule. That may be available, and it may shorten it down to about a 3 to 6 month wait list. Again, you're going to have that government assessment. The long-term care home is also more of that clinical type of environment. You're going to get the feeling of living in a hospital. So that is definitely a con when people are used to living or coming from their home environment. It is a communal environment, which could carry the risk of disease like COVID spread. Staffing can be challenging in the long-term care homes as well. The one thing that I found, which bothers me the most, is when spouses are separated. So if you've got one spouse that is qualifies for long-term care and the other one does not, the one spouse may move in, and when that second spouse does qualify for long-term care, they may not be able to go into the same home because it may not be available. So sometimes having the spouses together can be a challenge. The other con is you might have, in order to get in sooner rather than later and shorten that 5-year wait list, is you may be having to look at a shared room, which not everybody is comfortable with. And one thing that is also a little bit stressful for families is when they do call you and say that they do have placement available, you do need to move into that long-term care within 24 to 72 hours of availability, or you lose your spot and you go back to the bottom of the wait list. So these are things to keep in mind. Any questions so far? Okay, so we'll go into the government funded in-home care. So this is for people who don't qualify for that 24-hour care, but they still have qualified for some care. So typically these are for folks that have more of a physical or cognitive condition. This could be result of injury, or it could be for mental health mental health or addiction as well. So you still have to be evaluated and qualify for the services. And they usually often start at about 2 to 4 hours of a week for support. So it's important to remember that when you do get government funding for the in-home, quite often it's not enough. And usually the family is still pitching in if they can, or there's you're looking at other services to support that additional care that the person needs. So let's look at that just a little bit deeper. So again, the pros and cons for the government-funded in-home care is it is partially funded by the government. Again, it's available to anybody across Canada who meets the criteria in each province. Costs can cover anywhere from light housekeeping, physiotherapy, and nursing services, along with any other services as well. And they do coordinate with other government services. So they would coordinate you to be on that list for the long-term care homes as well. The other thing to keep in mind with the in-home care, though, is you still have those lengthy wait times. The process to go through and get approved and provide your documents is lengthy. There are exceptions to that as well. But you still have the government applications. They need to assess your medical and financial needs. And they may not offer all the services needed, as I mentioned before. So they may provide you 2 to 4 hours a week, but really say your mom needs more like 2 to 4 hours a day. So there quite often is a gap in what they provide and what is actually needed. They may not offer all the services needed. So depending on your province, they may only cover things like more nursing type of services instead of things like home care, which your parent may need. There can be, because of staffing issues, that inconsistency of staff. So you may get a different caregiver each week, which is important when trying to establish a routine for someone to know where the peanut butter jars are in the home if they were going to make a sandwich. And just simple things like that, where you wouldn't want your mom to have to re-explain to the new person every time where everything is. And the other thing to keep in mind with the government-funded home care is scheduling may not be at your preferred time. It may be based on their availability. So having your mom have that bath and that assistant may not be first thing in the morning or before bed as she likes. It might be at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So it's things like that to keep in mind. We also have options in private pay retirement. So the private retirement homes, they are either privately or corporately owned. They have more of a home-like feel. So very different in feel than the long-term care homes. And what's included in there is you usually have your room and board. So you have your rent and any fees for any services that you would buy, like, getting your hair cut or nails done. This is typically the most expensive option as well. So we'll talk about that as well. The retirement homes may also have a wait list. Now, they're not going to be 1 to 5 years, but depending again on which location you're looking at, generally in the larger centers, you may find that they could have up to a year wait list, especially if you're looking for something specific like memory care, or you're looking for a specific style of suite. So that's important to keep in mind, that if you're going to go that route, that you may want to start early. They will provide, generally speaking, housekeeping and meals. And in the more independent homes, they will do laundry and other things for a fee, like an add-on fee. They can do medication management for a fee, and care would be based on assessment. So the private pay retirement homes, and this is including things like your independent home and your assisted living. They have also the communal dining rooms or common areas or lounges, which are really good for that social and recreational. So if your mom likes to play cards and likes having people to spend her afternoon with, this is a good option as well. However, there is a limitation on the levels of care that they can provide. So typically there's the independent homes, and they would provide, they really are trying to support people to be independent. So they don't typically provide any care. They can add on medication management, but they don't take care of things like the laundry, for example. So when somebody does have higher care needs, so for example, if you started using a walker or needed a wheelchair, you would need to move again to an assisted living community that does offer that higher level of care. And many people don't want to go right into the assisted living community right away that offers a higher level of care because they feel their parent isn't ready for that, that they're still able to walk around, and they want that more independent type feeling. But it could mean a move down the line as your parents age and their needs change. So the thing to keep in mind with private pay retirement is they are usually centrally located. They have a lot of services, but they can be costly because none of the services are covered in terms of care. Your starting cost to move in there is generally, and this will vary from province to province and whether you're rural or centrally located, but generally speaking, costs start from about $5,000 a month. And they can go up to about $12,000 a month, depending on if you want that 2-bedroom apartment and you had a parent that had high care needs, such as full care if they were fully bed bound and needed all the types of care. So that's something to keep in mind. So again, the retirement homes, they don't usually provide 24-hour nursing care. Some, with the exception of some homes in some of the central areas, they may have that 24-hour nursing, which means things like if your mom or dad was a diabetic and they needed their sugars checked on a 24-hour basis, that's not something that a regular retirement home can do because they don't have a nursing person to be able to do it. So they do have, visiting doctors. They do have nurses that are there throughout the day, and they do work with a pharmacy in order to provide the services that your parent would need. So just to go over that again, the pros and cons. So with the pro for the retirement home is you're going to get that 24-hour round-the-clock supervision. There is somebody there all the time. You're going to have that structured social environment. There's typically a very good activity program, so lots of things to do. There is also a security area for those with dementia in some homes that offer memory care. And, your folks can forget about doing things like the cooking and cleaning, washing the floors and buying groceries, which is important. The cons, though, of the retirement homes would be that stress of adjusting to a new environment. And this would go for long-term care as well. Taking somebody out of their home is very stressful. Sometimes the cost may be unattainable. So, if you've got somebody on a more limited income, that $5,000 to $12,000 a month just might be out of reach for them. We have to also remember that though things are very structured, that leaves the opportunity for a lack of independence for your parents. So one example of this would be if your parents like to sleep in till 10 o'clock in the morning and then get up for breakfast. Most of the time, the retirement homes would have breakfast serves, say from 8 to 9:30. So they may miss a meal. And miss that interaction with the other people in the home. Again, the retirement homes may not offer all the services needed. So if you're in that more independent community and your mom say had dementia and she started showing signs of confusion, you would want her in a more secure environment. So that may prompt a need for a move to a community that does offer those services. You may be caught paying for amenities that your mom or dad wouldn't use, such as a pool. So in my experience, I find that especially in the independent homes, they are gorgeous. They look like condos, but there's so many things there that aren't being used that the home does have to pay for it as part of their upkeep, which is passed on obviously to you. The other thing to note with retirement homes is there will be additional testing, such as a TB test, COVID testing, and proof of vaccinations in order to move in. So that can be time consuming to get those done, and especially if you are in a hurry to make a move. The retirement homes also may come with a smaller apartment, sometimes starting at around 300 square feet. as opposed to the environment that they maybe currently live in. So that could be a large adjustment, having to give up a lot of things that are beloved to them. And again, being in that communal environment could carry a risk of disease such as COVID. So private pay home care, a few of the features are you can get anywhere from a couple of hours a week, or maybe you need full 24/7 care. You can have support from either the PSW or NERF staffing. You can get somebody in that is there just to support things like housekeeping as well. While the home care care person would be there, they're going to make sure that the home is safe, that there's no tripping hazards, that there's, that the stove is turned off and things like that, that it's a safe place for someone to reside still. So keeping in mind that when you're living at home, there are no constraints. You can customize the care. We can make a plan to visit you on your schedule as opposed to trying to fit your day into our schedule, which is very important to people. The services that can be offered could be companionship or just foot care or meal preparation, or in the case of full nursing care, that is also, we can do that as well. This can help people maintain a routine. Again, keeping on the schedule that they are doing. They can get up when they want, they can go to bed and have meals when they want, and support from showers when they want. The great thing about home care as well, it's available on short notice. So while you might have to wait for long-term care or even the government-funded home care or even a retirement home, you can typically arrange for an assessment and services to start on short notice, sometimes as early as the next day. This is also really works well when you're trying to get a discharge, because sometimes, I don't know if you've had that experience where someone's in the hospital and you're told that, mama's getting discharged tomorrow. That may leave you scrambling to find care in place for her. But we can typically arrange to have that assessment done that same day and services start the next day, which is really important. We can also help connect you to the other resources, such as senior moving companies, hearing aid companies, opticians that specialize in seniors. So things that are going to enable your parents to stay at home and let them age in place. Typically, private pay home care is much more affordable than retirement, I would say, except for the exception of somebody who has full care needs. And what's most important, I think, is really creating that bond with those that we care for, those special moments. I had a conversation with somebody today who was telling me that their family, they had a call from a family member who was a little bit upset that they weren't going to be able to get to their mom's birthday. And so our care team came in. They brought the cards, the flowers, and a cake, and they celebrated the birthday in the absence of her family, just so she wouldn't be lonely. So it's things like that that can make a difference when we have a bond in place with our families. So the pros and cons of the private pay home care. The pros, of course, we talked about, is having that more independent feeling of your life. You're in your own home with your creature comforts. You can have a tailored care plan, so you just need to pay for the care that you need and not for things you don't need. You can also get, the elimination of the tasks like the cooking and cleaning and the tasks of picking up medications and buying groceries. We can take care of that as well. And it's typically more affordable than the retirement homes. The cons, though, when you're staying at home, you have to remember that if somebody requires special equipment with ramps and chairlifts, if you have a 2-story home, the home might have to be retrofitted to accommodate the person staying there with these type of adjustments. There is less structured social activities. So whereas a retirement home may have something, every couple of hours, we offer, when we're coming in to do those social activities, playing Scrabble and going for walks, and we're able to do that, but it's not necessarily as structured as daily, depending on how often you call for services. And you have to remember, you're also carrying the cost to carry the home still. So the electric bills and things like that still have to pay, which go away when you're looking at a retirement option. So, just in looking at it, research is showing that people just prefer to stay in their homes. I think I heard only about 5% of people choose retirement homes. They prefer to stay in their home when they can. They can be happy in long-term care and retirement homes, and these are sometimes really the best option for people that have really high care, medically complicated needs, or for somebody that has more advanced dementia, that might be the best call. But for some people, leaving their home, it's disruptive, it's depressing. There's just a lot of selling your furniture and putting the house for sale, or giving up your lease and downsizing your things, and then leaving a home you love can create a lot of anxiety for seniors. So home care offers the following. So basically, because we can do those quick assessments and start services right away, that allow for faster releases from the hospital. So there's no tedious paperwork or tests to be run. We can get your mom, if she was going to be discharged in a day or so, we can get those services in place right away. And some people just don't like being in the hospital. So making sure that we can get them back home quite quickly is very important to people. We are involved with the treatment. So, we can coordinate with the family members and with other healthcare professionals to make sure that everybody's on the same page and that the right plan is in place. And remember, when people are in their home, they have that sense of independence. They're free to do things on their own schedule. Even things like meals are a big deal. Either having, if you have culturally significant foods that you like to eat, that may not be offered at a retirement home. And you may not want to eat your lunch at 11:30 in the morning when it's offered. So this way people can just have that independence of such a simple thing like a meal. Keeping, it's comfortable at home. There's just no substitute for having your favorite recliner chair or the view from your favorite corner of the house. And, keeping in mind that stress point of moving is always going to be there. And with in-house care, your parents can retain their, familiar comforts. Another thing to remember as well, when you're staying at home, that family and friends can visit without restrictions. So they don't have to provide a proof of a negative COVID test. There's no visiting hours. They can come whenever, whenever your parents want, which is really important to have that support from friends and family whenever it's needed. People at home too usually have a higher morale, so their mental health is better. Those that want to stay at home, they tend to be more physically and mentally healthier compared to those of retirement homes. Also, home care offers that one-on-one attention. So, the focus of the caregiver is always going to be on your parent, so that, they never have to wait for their turn for the attention of the aides, which is really important. And again, typically speaking, care at home is more affordable. As I said earlier, unless you have that really high care level required or memory care required where you need that secure environment, it's generally more cost effective. And again, it's important to remember that people will heal faster. Research studies have shown that patients, when they're coming out of a hospital, they recuperate and heal way faster and much more comfortably when they're in their own beds at home. and there's like less chance of them needing to go back to the hospital, which is more important as well. So services that support continued care at home would include things like that post-hospital recovery. So whether you need something for just a month while somebody's getting a hip replacement and they just need someone there to get them back up on their feet, that can be offered. Transportation to and from appointments or to get groceries, that can be provided as well. Things like housekeeping, as I said, grocery, prescription, and pickup is done. Personal support. So again, if that's just help getting dressed and grooming in the morning to full care, we can do that as well. We can do medication reminders, and we can also administer medications as well. We can do that meal preparation based on what your folks would need. And we offer nursing services for those people that do have higher care. We also offer some really good dementia support. So for those people who aren't at a risk of wandering and who are in their home, engaging that person and reminiscing about the times that's important to them and kind of meeting them where they are in that day is super important. And having that one-on-one time is really important, and having a consistent caregiver is important for somebody that has dementia. We also offer the palliative and end-of-life care, which is really important for us to coordinate with hospice and with the care team to make sure that the person is comfortable in their home and has their final days in the best possible place, which is in the comfort of their home. Our services are also available 24/7. So how Bayshore can help, and again, this is where I support right now. We can offer a free in-home or hospital consultation where we'll provide you with clear information on exactly what to expect. So what does a care plan look like? And we'll highlight the specific things that we'll be doing and won't be doing. So everything's transparent. Everybody knows what the plan is. Again, we can coordinate the services with your doctor or family members, making sure that everybody's on the same page. Our caregivers are supervised by a nurse, and they have that ongoing training to make sure that we have the most up-to-date techniques. We also have a really good quality assurance program. And it's something that some of the other homes just don't adhere to, which is important. We'll also provide you with a complete list of what services we do provide, as well as their pricing, and give you a copy of those financial arrangements. So again, everything's transparent as well. It's important to know that our staff is bonded, insured, and they're all professionally licensed or certified as needed. And we make sure that you get a caregiver that matches what you need. The personality. If we don't hit it off the right time, we're going to work to find the caregiver that will be there to support your parent or parents, and that person will be there on a consistent basis, which is important. So going back to making sure that we know where the broom is in the home, so that it doesn't have to be re-explained every time. So Bayshore has been around for 50 years in Canada. So we've refined our services, and we really know we listen to what people want, and that's the kind of services that we provide to reflect what our people are asking for right now. If you want more information, here's our phone number, and there's my email as well. So if you have any further questions, please send me an email or give us a call. We're happy to answer any questions about our services or talk about an assessment, or give you an idea in terms of pricing. And now we'll open it up to questions if people have questions.
Okay, Laurie, I'm going to jump in here just because we had a few questions in the chat box and the Q&A box. So the first question is from Sahara, sorry, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Are subsidies available for private home care?
So typically, no, there are no subsidies except for what the government would provide. So if you're looking for, typically how home care will work is a person can choose to do all home care, which is private pay, or sometimes they will get that certain amount of funding through the government. So in the case of Ontario, it was the LIN, the CCRC it is now, I think, and you would apply through them. So if they were to give you, say, 4 hours or 3 hours a week, and you still required 8 hours a week, we would do the rest, but it would be a private pay agreement. The only subsidized is what the government is covering. So you do have to apply through them to see what services they will give you. It's usually amount of time that they give you.
Okay, great. Now the second one is there any special assistance given to persons with feeding problems?
I would say, depending on what the feeding problems are, if it's somebody with somebody with dementia who just has no appetite and doesn't want to eat, that's one issue. But if it's somebody that is not able to eat with a feeding tube, that's completely something different. Typically somebody in the first scenario where it's a matter of encouraging them to eat, maybe there's some dementia there, or maybe there's a chronic illness and they just have lost their appetite. That's something that can be managed pretty much anywhere, whether that's retirement, in-home care, long-term care, or government-funded care, and that can be managed with having somebody providing some foods that look appetizing, something maybe muffins that have that protein in there that can just make sure that we're getting as much nutrition into that person. If you're looking at somebody, though, on the other end of the spectrum that is not able to eat and is requiring a feeding tube, typically, in my experience, that is almost always a long-term care environment. I would say that 99% of the retirement homes are not able to offer that type of support because of the nursing setup in their home. There are a few exceptions to the rules out there, but they're few and far between. But I think generally speaking, that would be long-term care, or you could do that in private pay home care. That is something that our nurses could do.
Okay, wonderful. That's good to know. Now, what does it typically cost for a private pay home care team?
So that again will depend on the type of services that are required. So if there are things just like housekeeping, depending on again where you're located, because prices across the country will change, but I will change based on the type of service and based on your location. So I would say, generally speaking, you could be looking at starting from $30 to $32 an hour. And going up to, if you're needing full nursing care, that might be over $40 an hour. So, you're best to call, say, for example, that number that I gave you on the previous screen. I can share that again. You can ask, we'll share that information with you. If you give us a scenario, we'll give you a quote right over the phone, what we think it might cost based on where you're located and what services that you're needing.
Okay, and can you also speak to the training of the staff?
Mm-hmm. So all of our staff is coming, as I said, they're certified in whether they're RN, LPN, or they're a PSW. We are also, as I mentioned, we are always doing ongoing training. So our RN will continuously be offering training courses to make sure that our team is abreast of whatever the most current training that's available in the industry. So we pride ourselves in making sure that we know how to transfer somebody safely, that we know how to administer medication safely, that we understand dementia. I mean, one of the programs that we're going through right now is I've just heard some more ongoing training about, approaching people with dementia and how to make sure that they're feeling comfortable. So it's ongoing training all the time to make sure that everybody that is touching one of our customers really understands them and is using the best techniques to make sure that we're giving the best experience.
Okay, that sounds really good. So now our final question is, does Bayshore service all communities within the GTA, or are you limited to certain residential areas? And actually, I have one more question after this too.
Sure. So Bayshore is located across the country. So you will find us in anywhere from Newfoundland to Victoria and all the way across the country. In the Toronto and the GTA area, we do have support. Basically, I'm thinking all the way from Durham region up to Barrie and over to Hamilton. So we have caregivers. We have hundreds of caregivers based on the geography of there. And we also do spread out a little bit further, but that's where the core in the GTA is, if that's helpful, without knowing where you are.
Yeah, sounds very helpful. So our final question is from Bethany Devers. With such a long wait list to get into a home, do you have any guidance on when is the right time to join the list? I wouldn't want to move my grandmother in until we're unable to care for her anymore.
So if you're talking about a retirement home, and I would say that you, depending on where your grandmother is right now, I would start doing a search right now and just getting a sense of the locations that you like, that you feel comfortable, that would support her needs. And then you can understand from them, that particular retirement home, what their wait lists are. Again, if you're looking for a 2-bedroom that overlooks the park on the 4th floor, you may be looking for a little bit longer wait list. But if you're not particular, they may say they have immediate availability on the 1st floor in a studio apartment. So I would start doing that research now. If you're talking about long-term care, though, you know, you've got to start with that assessment, and they kind of dictate to you when that wait list would be. So I would start, if your grandmother hasn't already had, if she's not already in the system, I would reach out to the geriatric outreach center in your area. So they will have one, usually affiliated with most hospitals. I know there's one in Newmarket, in Toronto, so I'm not sure where you're located, but it is called the Geriatric Outreach Center. And you can call and you can start the process there. What they'll do is they can come out and evaluate your grandmother based on her needs at this point, and see if she's if she is eligible for any services at this time. If she's not, at least she's in the system, and then your next step, when she is appropriate for services, it'll be a little bit quicker for them to come back and do a reevaluation. If they say, yes, she does qualify for long-term care at this point, then your next step is you have to pick 5 locations. So they will give you a list of in the area of, I don't know, maybe 30 homes, and it's up to you to go visit those homes and pick 5 of those. So what happens when you go on go to those locations, you can get a better feeling if that's the environment that you want for your grandmother or not. When you have found 5 that would be suitable for your grandmother, make sure you're asking what their wait times are. And when you go back to the care manager, or the case manager, I should say, back at the outreach center, you would say, these are the 5 that I want to be on the wait list for. And they'll generally have be in sync with what you were told at the long-term care facility in terms of wait time. So they may say, based on where you are, again, if you're in Toronto, you're going to be looking at longer wait times. If you're in Lindsay, Ontario, maybe it's not so long. But you do have to pick them, and then you go on the wait list, and they will generally tell you at that time how long the wait is based on the locations you choose. Sometimes, again, they will go into crisis mode. So if your grandmother had an incident and cannot wait 5 years, They will go through a special assessment at the hospital and may arrange to have you or have her on a crisis placement, which could lessen the time, but she may have to remain in the hospital for 3 to 6 months, or they may discharge her home. And you might be looking at options like home care for that 3 to 6 months until her time comes up at in the long-term care. So I know it's a really kind of generic answer, but there's so many variables of how long it's going to be. It's based on where you're looking, the type of home, and the wait list that they have, and how open you are. If you're saying, I just wanted to get in right away, they'll tell you where the shortest wait lists are. But if you have a number of specifications that you want in that long-term care home, you're likely going to be waiting a while. But I would definitely, depending on whether or not your grandmother needs help now, if she doesn't, then they're likely not going to offer any services. But if she does need help with, I would say at least 2 to 3 ADLs, which are the activities of daily living, like I said, like getting dressed, medication management, help with showering, or things like that, then she may qualify. But you do have to start the process, and it's lengthy. So I would make the call now.
Okay, great. Laurie, thank you for all of this. This is amazing. If anybody else has another question, please let us know now. We'll just wait another minute to see if there are any more questions from anyone else. And if not, then we will end today's session. So I'm just gonna double check our Q&A here. Okay. All right. Okay. Well, it looks like that's it for us, Laurie. So thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to share insight on such an important discussion to have with our families. We would like to remind all participants that we will be following up with a recording of today's session and any other materials Laurie will share. So thank you, everyone, for attending today's wonderful day, our session. So have a wonderful day.